All right, guys. This one's going to be about how I program at the gym differently for the CrossFit Open. When we are getting close to open season, how I program, how I consciously am doing the programming for that time of year. Before I get to that, guys, I just want to say this last weekend we had our anniversary party, our 12-year anniversary party. It was a great weekend. I had a blast with all you guys hanging out at Box Street Social. It was just a really nice night. I am very grateful for everything in my life. And then on Sunday was a great day. The weather was lovely. Was hanging out with Janelle and Scarlett. And then Scarlett went over to hang out with her cousins. So Janelle and I were hanging out talking about stuff. Then we were doing some other stuff. And then we were talking again. And guys, I want to say when Janelle and I got married, one of the things we committed to each other was in general, to work towards being happy. To having I would call it a grateful, happy outlook on life. And knowing that doesn't mean there aren't any challenges, there aren't any fears, there's not a lot of stuff that's hard. In fact, I think that is a requirement of life to be able to be happy, is that you do have stuff in your life that scares you, that you have stuff in your life that is a significant challenge. Because I think a big part of happiness, of being quote unquote happy, is actually satisfaction, is being satisfied because you have purpose and you have accomplished things. And when I see people that have really easy lives, I would call them, where there is not much to be concerned about, I don't know anybody like that I would consider truly inspired or happy. Maybe not miserable, but at the very least kind of listless, just without purpose. And that's where I think the danger lies. When people do accomplish a lot, and then you retire, you get old, and you are very satisfied with what you're done. And then maybe you get a little too satisfied. And then you don't keep having purpose. You don't keep having hard things. And then we lose it. And then suddenly I see the listlessness, the lack of having a point start to seep in again. So unfortunately, I think we always need to have hard stuff in our life, to have challenges, to have things that scare us in order to really, truly be happy. I went down a big rabbit hole right there. But that is just to say that, going back to, I am very grateful that I get to spend my days with all of you, that I have a wife who we like to have fun together, that 13 years into marriage, we really enjoy each other's company. And that I've got a daughter that's just, I really enjoy, she's just a joy to be around. So anyways, I'm feeling very grateful after this weekend. It was a good weekend, as you can tell. CrossFit Open programming. So when CrossFit talks about fitness, there's a pyramid they build, and at the bottom of the pyramid is nutrition, and right above that is metabolic conditioning. And metabolic conditioning, guys, is basically what we call our engine. When you're working out and you're out of breath and you're wheezing in CrossFit, that is your metabolic conditioning. When we're doing a bunch of burpees with a bunch of runs with a bunch of kettlebell swings, that is metabolic conditioning. And so the Open being the base test of the Open, and then you refine the test as you get into regionals and the games up from there. What is appropriate to test at the Open level is your engine, is metabolic conditioning, is basically that, and then a little bit of fatigue resistant strength. And you guys have heard me, if you've heard the Devil's Details in the past, what kind of strength do we train? We build FIRES, FIRE standing for fatigue resistant strength. That's the kind of strength we do build, because that's the kind of strength I think that is the most useful to have in life. And it is also the kind that the Open is definitely going to test. You're not testing rested strength. You're not testing how much you can bench when all things are considered equal. You're not testing how much you can clean and jerk when you're totally fresh. You're going to test how much you can clean and jerk 3 times after you've done a super grueling workout for 15 minutes. So anyways, I say that with the fact that as we come into the Open, while it is unknown and unknowable, I know what they're going to be testing from a body energy systems is your metabolic conditioning. So as we get closer to the Open, I get more and more into a strength maintenance kind of phase where I'm not as worried about building new strength. We'll start that again in March, continue that through the rest of the year. But right now, I'm worried about just maintaining the strength you have, and you're learning to apply that strength more in the form of stamina and power. And so that's why you guys have seen our Monday strength cycles are all barbell cycling right now, because that is the kind of strength they're going to test, is moving a barbell repeatedly over and over with a lightweight or a medium weight or a slightly medium heavy kind of weight, not much beyond that. So that's what I'm training with you guys, is learning to cycle the barbell through snatch grip movements, through clean grip movements, going overhead, pulling off the ground, all these different combos. And I'm not going to do as much volume on the strength because I'm not as worried about building new tissue and strength right now. I'm worried about harnessing what you have and getting it to be used in other fashions. Same, we've done these workouts where we do chunks of movement. When they talk about chunks of movement, you're going to do 50 of one thing before you do 100 of the next thing and 200 of the next thing. That's where you are going to hit local muscle fatigue with the muscles being tested on those specific movements. If we're doing push press and you're going to do 100 of them, you're going to hit where you'd like to maybe go a little faster because you're breathing heavy, but that's not the limiting factor, but your shoulders and triceps are tired out. So that's where we've talked about stamina is the kind of strength where you want to keep going, but you just can't. And so that's where you've seen more of these chunk workouts lately. So as I've done this year over year over year, my philosophy has changed. I used to start training for the Open a lot earlier, where we would start even in December or maybe even end of November, really training for the Open. I don't think I need to do that anymore because, one, I think I'm better at keeping your engine higher year round because we don't do as much strength work, as much isolated purely strength work anymore. I think I can make you strong year round. Even if you've been doing this for 10 years with me, I can still make you stronger with a little less volume on that. And I think because of that, we can keep the engine higher where we don't need to build it up as much. So that's how I used to do it. And then after a while, you guys know this, I would do a bunch of repeats of open workouts where we would just cycle through a lot of the open workouts from years past, especially as we're getting past 2018, 2019, and we have, almost 10 years worth of open workouts. There's a lot to pull from there that I can run repeats. And that wasn't a bad way to go. I think that was a pretty decent way to train for the Open, but over time, I think I was getting close to maybe wearing us out. A little too much volume, a little too much of that intensity too early, where by the time we get to the Open, we're already kind of mentally or physically tired from that side. So what I'm trying to do with all of us as we get to the Open is really peak our engine and peak our mental capabilities right at the end of February, going into the beginning of March for this unique test. And so I have found, I think, that because of how I program year round, I don't have to really start this kind of training until after the new year. And really, maybe not even till the middle of January is when I kind of really start, as I view it, going into a strength maintenance phase and really hammering on your engine. Hammering on that engine that is in the 5 to 20 minute time frame. Again, the classic kind of time frame we work in with CrossFit, but really working a lot in that time frame. And you'll see even coming up this year more than any other year, and I did a devil's details on this too, I can attach in the comments below, but talking about intervals and how I think my theory that I'm applying to you guys right now is that the intervals we have done has allowed me to build that engine without using as much volume. And so because we can work hard for 3 minutes and rest for 3, or work hard for 3 or 4 minutes and rest for 2, different combinations there. Because of the work-rest interval, I can build that intense pace where you're going really hard, like over 80%. And because of the rest in between, you get several dips into that well, where if I was just programming a bunch of 17 and 18-minute workouts, when you're working for that long nonstop, obviously that is a different pace than when you're working for 3 minutes at a time. And so, again, because intensity has been shown to trickle down, when you work really intensity, that does benefit your engine at lower intense paces. Where when you work at lower intense paces, that does not go up the ladder. It does not benefit your higher intensity engine. So when I'm working your engine, where you're going hard for 3 to 5 minutes and then resting and doing that over and over, having that kind of engine work will benefit your engine on the 15 and 20 minute workouts. But if we just did 15 and 20 minute workouts, that would not go uphill and benefit your 5, 7, 9 minute engine. And so that my theory has been on that. Let's do a few more intervals so we still get a lot of dips into that well. We're not just doing 1 5-minute workout. We're doing maybe 4 or 5 in a day. But with the breaks in between, I can build it up faster. And going back to that strength maintenance phase, as you guys have seen, I mainly am working power movements. So again, power being cleans, jerks, snatches, that kind of stuff, with some squatting thrown in, since we do a lot of squatting. And this week, today we are doing thrusters. Saturday we're doing wall balls. There's more rowing up in the mix, that kind of stuff, because I know these are movements we're going to see in the open, and I just want to build the engine specific to those kind of movements. And then I've been throwing in more lately too, some floor press and some pressing movements, because I feel like that's a kind of strength we can work right now that's a strict strength, not as much power, strict strength, but it's not going to have much effect on my ability to work everything else. It's not going to let me, I can still fit that in and still work the power and the barbell cycling as much as I want, because that strict horizontal pressing strength is a very unique kind of strength that we don't use a lot, frankly, in the open. Think about it. We haven't done push-ups since I think 2011 or 2012, and I will say I don't think we will ever do push-ups again in the open. It's too hard a movement to judge, so I just don't think you'll see them. I would be very surprised if you ever see kettlebell swings. It is also too hard a movement to judge. So there's some movements I can feel pretty confident because of the judging standards. When you're talking about worldwide and hundreds of thousands of people doing this, that because of the nature of certain movements, they're just too hard to judge consistently. And I think you saw that with V-ups a couple years ago, that they learned that there was more subjectivity than they even realized with V-ups. And so that's what having thousands of people do this year over year has brought out. There's certain movements that are just problematic because there's different ways people can do them. And it's hard to have a set standard of points of performance where there's still not too much variance in there on how hard it is for this person compared to this person. So that's all to say, horizontal pushing strength, push-ups, that kind of stuff, I don't think we're going to see in the open. I don't think we're going to see a bench press. I don't think we're going to see a floor press. Floor press would be the one I think we could possibly see one year, but I would be kind of surprised, but that would be the one. But having said that, it's easier for me to train floor press and make us stronger in that, and know it helps our bench, and we all like to have a big bench. And so it's a way for me to build in some strength for us meatheads, that we're getting our fix that way, and it's still allowing me to train you for the open with power and stamina and metabolic conditioning as much as I want to anyways. So having said that, what you'll notice different around this time of year and all the way through the middle of March is our strength. There's not going to be as many reps at those heavier weights. And when we are doing lots of reps, like next Monday's strength movement, you're going to be doing 12 reps for every one rep, because it's a big complex with 4 movements. You're doing 3 reps of each, so it is a lot of time under tension. Again, I am making you work your stamina and that barbell cycling efficiently, because I know those are things that are tested in the open much more than are we going to be tested on a 1 rep max front squat or back squat. We're not. That's not going to happen. Like, it's just, I know that's not going to happen. If we were ever doing a squat in the open, I suspect it would be a front squat, and I suspect it would be more than 3 reps. It would be 3 to 5, and I would be surprised if we saw that. I think we'll see more. Again, the strength cycles will be deadlifts into power cleans, into a front squat, into a shoulder to overhead, where we can have these ranges of motion that are tested, and there is some variance in the form, which makes it easier to test for the judges, easier to judge for the judges, and have kind of a universal standard. And even if people get there slightly different ways, it would still be considered kind of even. And that's a rabbit hole I could go really far down on each movement, but that's why I feel confident knowing what kind of strength will be tested in the open. And I think if they test strength, it will be after a metabolic workout. It will be after one, or it'll just be a slightly heavier barbell in a workout. Like tomorrow's workout, that's what they're going to do, where you're doing sets of 10 with a deadlift at a medium to medium heavyweight, but because of how many you're going to have to do, it tests that strength stamina factor. And yet tomorrow's is a version of a workout from the second workout from 2024, but I changed some of the movements in it, but it is still testing that same kind of stamina, hip hinging strength on that. So I kind of went a few different directions there, but coming out of the open into March, when you're missing your jonesing for your big heavy strength days, you will see them. You will see us get back to lots of deadlifting and front squats and back squats, bench press, shoulder press, all the meathead stuff is coming. And we do that, as you guys know, most of the summer, all through the fall, all the way to Christmas time. And then it is this time of year where I'm harnessing all that strength and refining it down to make us power animals, stamina animals, and animals that can just go, go, go and recover very quickly. Right on. Talk to you later.